Good morning, gearheads, and welcome to episode 3 of Phil's Garage. Once again, I'm Phil. Over here's the garage, and today is the first day that we are actually going to start pulling parts off the Jimmy. The process actually begins today. Dad's here with me. The step 1 for us is we're going to do the tailgate. So what I haven't told y'all is really our strategy for the restoration. Our strategy is going to be take a piece off and finish it. And when I say finish it, I mean painted, assembled, everything. So the goal is, for example, the tailgate. We're going to take the tailgate off. We're going to make the changes we want to make, which is converting it from power windows to manual windows so that we don't have to mess with the electronics anymore. So once we get that taken off, get everything converted, we're going to pull it all apart again. We're going to take the tailgate in. We're going to get it painted. We're going to put all of the new weather stripping on it, all of the new badging on it, and then once it's completely finished, completely put back together, we're going to put it on a shelf. And then we're going to move on to something else. So that way, we don't get in a situation where all of a sudden we've got a torn apart car and we don't know where anything goes, or we run out of time, or we run out of money, and then we have to just throw the whole thing away. In this way, if something happens, something comes up in life, and all of a sudden we've got new priorities, and we don't have time for the truck anymore, well, we're going to go back to the shelves, and we're going to take all of our parts that are completely finished, and we're going to throw them back on the truck. And we're going to have a truck that can run and can drive, and it's fully together. It's going to look ugly as sin, but we're not in a bad spot if that happens. So anyways, Dad's going to come in here, and we're going to try to find the bolts, the bolt size that we're going to need for this work, and then we're going to go through what we think is going to happen, what we think our plan is going to be, and then we'll start it and show you what it turns out to be. Okay guys, here's the plan. Here's what we figured out. Well, here's what we think we figured out. We have tried to estimate where our points of contact, points of connection between the tailgate and the Jimmy actually are. And here are the points that we figured out. One is right here where the tailgate support cable connects to the body. The second is going to be this hinge right here. And after looking at it, you can either disconnect it here at these bolts, or you can disconnect it underneath the body itself. We've decided to disconnect it underneath at the body. So you've got this hinge here and this hinge here. Now the other points of contact are the electrical harness that's coming out down here at the bottom. That will simply unplug right there. And then the other are these 2 torque rods right here, and there's a one just like it on the right side. Now what those do is when you lower the tailgate, those torque and turn, and they help you lift the tailgate back up as you close it. Now we think that we're going to have to take the bumper off, so that torque rod comes right down under here and hooks on a little bolt down attached to the frame. So what we think we're going to have to do is we think we're going to have to take the bumper off. When the bumper's gone, we'll be able to get at that torque rod underneath the bumper and pull it away from the car, and then we'll be able to undo that bolt and then release the tension on the torque rod, and then we'll be free. Now that's the plan. Let's see what happens. Alright guys, here we go. We're going to start by taking off the hitch and then finish by taking off the bumper. I don't have to tell you guys, but it's always a good reminder. Safety gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection. Always a good idea, never hurts. Let's give it a shot, see what we can do. Oh, please fit.
Oh, nice. On that.
Yep.
Release it. Uh-oh. Okay. Push that bolt out.
When we push the bolt out,
No problem. I gotta hold it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, you got all the hardware?
No, I need a nut.
Oh, I think I put it right there.
Okay, good. That's loose now. Got it. I got it. All right.
So there's a couple other pieces. So this. So like we talked about, the goal is to every time we take a part off, get it completely finished and completely redone, and then be done with it. Put it on the shelf. So the bumper is going to be the first example of that. Probably what's going to happen with this, we're talking about doing a tan and black two-tone paint job on this, and the accent pieces, like the bumper, are going to be black. So what we'll probably do with this, we'll take it to a sandblaster, have him take off all of the chrome finish, and then we'll get it painted. So this is going to go on the shelf and wait to go to the sandblaster with probably a couple other parts from the tailgate. Okay guys, here's a big thing we learned when we took the bumper off. You'll notice right now that the tailgate is shut, and when the tailgate is shut, you can see this is what the end of that torque rod looks like. And you see this is actually the bolt that holds that. So when the tailgate's down, this rotates down, catches on this bolt, and that's how the rod torques up and then helps you lift the tailgate back up. So when the tailgate is up, there's no tension on this piece right here, so you can go ahead and remove this. We were afraid we were going to have to pull on this to get it off of this bolt, but when the tailgate's closed, there's no pressure on it. So we can take this right off, and that answers our question. That makes our life real easy. Alright guys, so all the nuts that held the bumper onto the frame were 3/4 inch nuts, and just remember, if you're using impact tools, use the impact sockets. We've screwed up a couple sockets because we used them on the impact, and we've ripped them to all kinds of hell. So now what we're going to do is, since the tension rods are loose, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little flap off, this body piece. I don't even know what you would call it. We've got 4 bolts running along here. Once that is off, what we'll be able to do, we'll be able to take the bolts underneath the body, like we talked about from the hinges. We'll be able to take those off, and we'll be able to take off the bolts that hold the cables for the tailgate off, and we'll be able to take the entire tailgate as one piece off the body. Alright guys, here's something we found that's worth noting. When you unscrew one of these bolts that's attached to this flap, there is a little bracket right here, and it was held together with one bolt here that goes to the bumper and one bolt here that holds this flap on. So we've already undone this when we took the bumper off. So we took this bolt off, and this just fell free. So we want to make sure that you account for that, and you know how that went on, how it came off, and how it'll go back on. So once again, this will go to the sandblaster and get cleaned up and get some black paint on it. Oh, there you go. There's one way of keeping it all together. Do you want
to screw this one back on there?
Now that we've got the 4 1/2 inch bolts removed that were holding that flap on. What we're going to do now is we're going to remove the bolts that are holding these hinges to the body itself. And those are going to be 4 9/16 inch bolts for each hinge. So 4 for the left hinge, 4 for the right. Hey, Dad. Good call on the goggles.
Yeah.
Alright guys, we've got all 8 bolts loose, but we're not taking them all the way out because Dad and I really aren't sure about how heavy this tailgate's going to be. We've got a good guess that it's going to be really stinking heavy, but we just want to kind of be able to lift it and shimmy it and jiggle it and get a feel for it before we take all the bolts off and get ourselves in trouble. Alright guys, we've got all 8 bolts loose from the hinges, but they're still on there, holding it together. Now we're just going to release the 2 bolts that are attached to the body that are holding these tailgate supports. At that point, we'll completely remove the 8 bolts. We're preparing a place in the garage to set it down. We're just going to set it down on top of a bunch of cardboard boxes so we don't dent it up. And then we'll dive into it. And I forgot to mention, these 2 bolts holding up the cables to the body, 3/4 inch. Like Dad just pointed out, and probably saved us some real issue. Don't forget to disconnect the wiring harness to the tailgate before you try to remove the tailgate. It's just 2 wires. Well, it's 3 wires, 2 plugs, and those plugs just pull straight apart. They might be stuck together if they're as old as ours. Just grab a couple pair of pliers, pull them apart.
And there's that too. Hinges went in.
So the contact points were the hinges there, and the tension rods hooked, and then so the hinges, and then where the cable supports connected, and then where the tension rods.
Oh yes, the tension rods were here.
Yep.
But we're not clamped down, so they just slid on.
Yeah. So we could just lift the tailgate right up off of them, and yeah, that's it. All right, guys, that's it. That's episode 3 of Phil's Garage. Episode 3 is going to be just the removal of the tailgate for you guys who just want to remove the tailgate for replacement, or you banged it up in a wreck or anything like that. We're going to dive into the tailgate more and start replacing parts to convert it to a mechanical window next episode. So I don't really have an outro, so